Hello, welcome back to another of my monologues. Thank you for joining me, very kind of you. Today I want to talk about utility companies and the bills that we get. But before I get on to that, I want to just say a big thank you to Anthony Wrigley, who sent me this. It's a book, you can get it apparently on Amazon, A to Z of crazy nicknames. The name, of course, is one of those things that we often talk about on this channel, about how it's a label, how it's not really us, how it's a thing, the all caps name registered by the Crown Copyright. It's not really ours at all, and yet we're encouraged to use it to get a bank account, to have a passport, to have utility businesses or bills, or the services, I suppose I ought to say. Anyway, nicknames are important, aren't they? Because that's what we often prefer to be called by, or perhaps somebody else. A name really is only something that somebody, it's a sound, isn't it? It's a sound really that gets our attention. That's all a name is. It's just a label. Anyway, we'll talk about that in another video. But I just wanted to say thank you for the A to Z of crazy nicknames. It's a colour book with comedy. It's comedy. It's light-hearted, and if you're interested, Anthony Wrigley sent it to me. Thank you very much. I'll put a link in the description. You can check it out. Anyway, people send me all sorts of stuff, and it's very kind of you to do so. I appreciate that. I just want to say a big thank you to Liz Phillips at The Great Resist, who put up the Exeter thing, and all the people there I met. It was lovely to meet you, and it's always charming to meet real people. And a number of people come up and they shake your hand and they say, Richard, it's just nice to know you're real. Yes, when you're just on the screen, it's very easy to sort of believe that this is AI or made up, or not really somebody who's there, who's prepared to come and actually meet real people. And so, you know, I try to do as much of that as I can. Anyway, in the world the new world that we're making, now that the dark forces are basically on the back foot, declining, have lost their power. And I think, by the way, that's a message that we should just continually remind them and ourselves, actually, that the dark forces, the people that want to manipulate us, is over. They've had their day. Thanks very much. Goodbye. If you could pack your bags and just disappear as quickly as possible, it'd make our lives so much easier. We might see a little bit more rough turbulence and what have you, you know, the government trying to do its damnedest to make things awkward for everybody. But rest assured, they are on the way out. And we're going to have to start thinking about how we actually want to run this world from now on. For thousands of years, these dark forces have been in control, but not anymore. Their ascendancy is going. And to be honest with you, good riddance to them. They've been a pain in the neck, haven't they? So, as I say, pack your bags and shift it. But in this new world, I was thinking about corporations, and I was thinking about the utility companies. Now, when you think about what a utility company is providing, they're providing things that are what we've deemed now as important. So not just deemed, they are important. Water, for example, is an absolute necessity. And because of the way government has decided it's going to rule the world or rule the land or whatever, I mean, they're just bullies. They're the mafiosi, aren't they? And they do their own thing. But because of the way that they've sort of come up with their rules and regulations, if you're in that system, basically they've sort of stopped us from using the rivers. People apparently sort of own things, don't they? They'll claim to, at least. They've got a bit of paper to say, oh, no, yes, I own this. I own the rights to this, and I own the rights to that. I own a title to this, and all this sort of rubbish. And so we can't just go and collect water. And because we live in these towns, which are ever increasing, covered in concrete, covered in tarmac, covered in steel and glass, and natural rivers and things are all silted up. And because these people are poisoning the rivers with the big corporations just chucking any old crap into it, and you're probably not advised to even drink out of the springs anymore because of all the landfill and everything else that's going on. we have to have water treatment places now, don't we? And we now don't even know what's in the water, because the water treatment stuff is treating water. It's not cleaning it, just seems to be treating it. And it's all passed by the management, isn't it? And who knows what the management are taking. But anyway, my point is that in a new world, we may still need to have these utilities. We may still need to have water piped to us as cleanly as possible. But let's think about how we're supposed to pay for this, shall we? Because this is a necessity. And I think if we are going to have businesses and companies that are going to provide water, and by the way, I don't know if you saw Chris Brooks's lovely program the other day talking about how all these utility companies that were basically in the public domain, by public authorities, municipal water treatment centres and gas and electricity, all those things that we deem absolutely essential for our modern lives and for our convenience, etc. They've all been privatised at some point. And where upon one time it was all being paid out of our taxes and were relatively cheap, now, of course, we're paying through the nose, and they fluctuate the price left, right and centre. None of it's subsidised, none of it's helping, none of it comes out of apparently our council tax or any of these sort of things. We're all paying by meters that measure by unit, which is, you know, very callous way of doing something. And we've kind of accepted it, haven't we, that these production companies, these companies will make this thing apparently and supply it to us. And because we need it to exist, we can't exist without water, for example. And these days we're all being encouraged to have electricity or indeed gas to be able to cook our meals, but we're not allowed in many places to even rub two sticks together to create our own fire in the back garden in some places. And they sort of come down at you with a ton of bricks if you dare to have a wood-burning stove or all these sort of things. And they want to rule this, that and the other. And yet they'll charge you through the nose. And not only that, they'll say, okay, we'll try and get some green energy, and we'll have all this solar farm gobbling up the farmers' fields, the agricultural land, so we can't actually grow anything anymore because they've blighted that. And then they announce they're going to dim the sun. So even if you had a chance to have free electricity or reduced electricity or solar electricity, they're going to dim the sun so that you can't even generate that. So they basically do want you to starve. But anyway, they're out, and we know that their ascendancy is gone. They're going to be disappearing down the plug hole very soon, and good riddance, as I say to them. However, in the future, I think we need to think about this, and we need to rebuild, start getting the rebuilding going. So we are going to need somehow to get water to our houses, and we are going to need electricity, and we are need to have gas and whatever systems, you know, maybe there'll be free energy in the future as well, which I'm sure that's coming. But in the meantime, these companies that think that they're going to supply us, number one, they should not, and I don't think in the future ought to, have any profit. They don't need profit. You see, I think if you've got a company or you've got a utility, like gas and electricity, etc., water, even the internet now, I would say that these things should be at the minimum cost to every people on the planet. They should be, if they are deemed an essential, they should be absolute minimum. The production of whatever the supply is should be at the absolute minimum, if not subsidised by your government, by public money that we all pay in a little bit too. You know, if it's not going to be that, it should be absolutely that these companies do not and are not allowed to make a profit. They may make a small profit to reinvest into the company, but they don't need shareholders. They shouldn't have shareholders. Why would you need shareholders? The government could invest the money, the public money that we all pay into these companies to get the infrastructure. Once the infrastructure is in, and maybe there's a little percentage year on year to plough back into maintenance and all of that. People working for these companies should be paid a decent wage, of course. The directors and what have you don't need to have massive, great big payment structures at all. They shouldn't have any of that. and there shouldn't really be any other excess profit. You know, when you hear about these energy companies and they're getting so much extra profit, that should not be allowed. That should be absolutely taken out, and they shouldn't have any shareholders to be servicing, because it seems to me that these sort of companies, and I'm talking principally of utility companies for essential services, whatever that essential service is, they should not be getting a profit. They don't need the shareholders, and they don't need to be serving shareholders. They need to be servicing customers, if you like, those people who are purchasing the service, and looking after their employees. That's basically what should be going on. The rest of the nonsense does not need to happen. There's no profits, no people buying yachts and golf courses on the back of this, or all of the other rubbish. We don't need any of that. If it's an essential service, it should be produced at the best quality possible, so water absolutely 100% clean, but at the lowest cost. And same with gas and electricity. There should be nobody. We don't need brokers. I don't understand why you've got brokers in there. What are the brokers trying to do? It should be simply at the lowest possible price, which means that we are not paying through the nose. We're not held to ransom. It should be out of government's remit to put any sort of rising and lowering of these things, other than perhaps, you know, whatever, if there's a tragedy and you suddenly need to build a new let's say, what do you call it, a big bowl of water, what do you call that, a reservoir. We ought to have sufficient of everything, invest in that, and once we've got it, that's it. I can't see why these companies need to make a profit or have brokers and all the nonsense that goes with it. And if you can tell me why they do, I'd be very interested. If it's an essential service for life, if it's about keeping people warm, if it's about being able to cook food, and if it's about being able to drink, then, as I say, these companies ought not have any profit, should not be on the stock exchange, should not have anything to do with that, should be investing in the people and their customer base. That's it. End of. The dark forces are over. We've got to start building a new world, the world that we want, a world that is meaningful and is right for us. Some people say that these utilities ought to be free anyway, and maybe that's true, but I don't mind paying a small amount to have clean, really clean, proper water piped to my house. I might want to then just structure it my end with a small little device, whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with paying for something, because you do want to be able to pay and afford the people to do it. But I don't want them making a profit out of it, a vast profit, any kind of profit, just reinvest it back into the thing. I think I've made that point quite clearly now, and I shall continue to carry on my Sunday, it is a Sunday today, and enjoy puffing my pipe. So think about that the dark forces are dead and buried now. We're going to see them disappear, but we need, the people of this land, we need to start thinking about how we actually want to structure this. Do we want the sort of governance that we've been having recently? Do we want government the way it's worked? Do we need the House of Commons, a house for the commoners, the lowest possible people? Do we not want a completely different setup on how to look after people in this country and actually maintain things for the best possible way? I think that we're going to have to start thinking about this very hard, because if we don't, we'll just get continually railroaded by those people who think that they are, for some reason, above us, more intelligent, and have certain rights to things. And of course, they don't. So goodbye to them and hello to us. Thank you for watching. Take care. Look after yourselves. Keep smiling. Enjoy the sun if it does come out, and have a happy time. Till next time. Goodbye.